Thanks, Bernard. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Patrick Dougherty, toko ingoa, no tamaki makaurau aho. So as Bernard said, I'm here to talk about what we are doing, and this is actually a great opportunity for us to actually share that story, because it always feels like when we work in this industry, we talk a lot about what we're going to do, and it's actually pleasing to stand here and talk about what we are doing, but it's still obviously clearly just a scratch on what we need to do. The purpose of my short time with you together is to tell that story, recognising, of course, you'll hear us referencing Housing New Zealand all the way through. In about 6 weeks' time will be Kāinga Ora Homes and Communities, and Housing New Zealand will be one of the building blocks of that new organisation. But the core element of being a world-class public housing landlord is going to be a key part of that future. And so what you'll hear us show in the little video I'm going to show you is some of the things and activities that we do to help us to do that well. So let's just go through that now. So it always tells a better story than I can tell you. The numbers are fantastic, but as I said, it's just a scratch in what's needed. The numbers, and this is something that I have to always work with within my construction team, is often what we have to focus on to be able to get the job done. But fundamentally, it's about the people that we serve, that we actually do what we do every day. And we are always reminded that Housing New Zealand operates and exists to serve the most vulnerable people in our country who live in our homes, 180,000 households, 180,000 people that live in our homes. That demand for the state homes in New Zealand has been growing terribly in recent times. We're, I think, up to 13,000 in the waiting list with the MSD. And that's really a demand for warm, dry, safe housing. And that's a key reason why we have to do what we do, because a lot of our existing stock is that tired old stuff that isn't necessarily described as warm and dry. So even before we get to the point of solving some of the housing shortage challenges that we have in this country, as a prudent landlord, we actually have to have our portfolio in the appropriate state, which is the base building block for us to be able to get this job done. So we did deliver more than we had to get for our target last year, but it's still not enough. But there's much more to come. In the next 4 years, we've had 12 months of this 4-year program. We're going to be investing $5.6 billion for a net increase of 1,100 additional state houses, plus significantly upgrade a lot of our existing stock. And we're cashed up to do it. We plan to borrow about $1.5 billion a year. So after that first year, we borrowed about $1.55 billion so far, so we're way on track. And there's evidence everywhere, and I'll show you a graphic a little bit later of where all this activity happens. Often you hear us talk about our stuff that we're doing in Auckland. Well, the conversation's very different. This is a nationwide program. We've signed up about 170 odd contracts, $1 million worth of contracts in the last couple of months, and there's a 57% increase in dollar value from the previous quarter. And so we're basically continuing to increase our momentum. So this graph shows here we go. This graph shows that last year we delivered the largest number of homes in 1 year that we've had in Housing New Zealand's recent history. And Bernard's graphic actually, shows you when was the last time that we actually spent, as a government, that much money in residential construction. This number last year was more than 3 times that came online just 2 years ago. So that number was just under 1,500 delivered, which was a net increase of 1,233 houses. That's housing now an approximate 4,000 tenants. Those are 4,000 people now in those warm, dry, healthy houses. It wouldn't be if we hadn't started this program. And we're ramping up that investment to deliver more. Our spend last year, just within my construction group, was $1.3 billion. And those numbers are continuing to escalate. Now, how do we get there? The video talked about us being the biggest builder in the country. Well, we're actually not a builder, really. We're just the biggest client of residential construction. I don't actually have a builder who works in my team. Well, I do have a few because we need to know a bit about it. But the actual get the hammers in the hand, those are the people we contract with. And we get nothing done unless people choose to work with us and to partner with us. And that word partnership is actually core to what you'll hear me talk about from here. Central to everything is we have to put the customers at the heart of everything we do. So we have to understand what we're building and why we're building it. And then we're partnering with performing builders to sign up multi-year capacity contracts. So effectively buying people's capacity for several years to overcome that boom-bust cycle, which means that they end up having margins built in to cover those down periods. And this starts to extract cost and gives those businesses an opportunity to invest in their businesses and plan in their teams and how they relate with their subcontractors. We're increasing the use of our off-site manufacturing methods and modern materials such as cross-laminated timber. And we're building to standardise house plans and apartment designs to boost productivity and efficiency. Now, those 3 sentences are pretty much core to everything my team have been focused on for the last 12 months to set up the base of what we're doing for the next 2 or 3 years. We're also looking at setting up a dedicated building control authority to process consents for state homes built to those standardised designs. And we're ensuring our quality standards are well in excess of the building code and meeting the Homestar 6 standards. Working with our subsidiary HLC, which is one of the other building blocks of what Kaingaora will be built from, to lead large-scale development projects on behalf of the Crown with regeneration projects on the Housing New Zealand land in areas of Auckland and Pararua. So how will we increase that pace and scale beyond what we're already doing? And how will we take advantage of that scale properly? The reason we're doing that, of course, is to extract the meaningless margins that are actually making it so expensive to build homes in this country. I'm still embarrassed when I travel overseas to research the work that's happening at scale, that we're trying to learn how to do that in this country, when I start comparing what the cost of construction is from New Zealand to other parts of the world. So we've got to find a way to make that different, not just for our experience on behalf of the state, but so that the industry is much more effective. And so the transformation of the industry is one of the key outcomes we're looking to do as we use our scale. We're looking to create genuine partnerships and put risk in the appropriate place. So we've recently signed up 5 capacity partnering agreements with build partners for the delivery of houses and terraces in Auckland. And those are 3-year commitments. And we're about to go, we've just gone out to the market, talk to them about our 3-level walk-up apartments and how we're going to do the same thing in the regional spaces. We're ramping up the retrofit and the apartment construction processes as well. So this will allow, as I say, businesses to invest in their teams, their plant, and their subcontract relationships. And the price savings that are already coming through are over 15%. And when you start doing that across a program of the scale that we're operating, it basically means there's a lot more houses that we can build with that money, and it starts to getting us to the point where we're actually making an impact, but that is only the start. We're using off-site manufacturing as a key element with our future program, optimising the design for our 3-level walk-ups, which we're doing a lot more with the work that we did with the unitary plan, be able to increase the density in Auckland. This form of construction is going to be quite a big part of our future shape. We're refining the scale rollout of a hybrid cross-laminated timber building system and we're piloting manufactured bathroom pods sourced from multiple Australian and New Zealand suppliers. We're really working to develop the capacity and capability of these off-site manufacturing solution people. And we're really working on our systems and processes and how to access building materials and methods to select how we can match our requirements to meet those building codes, but also, as the long-term owner of these buildings for 70 plus years, no one cares more than we do about the quality of these buildings. So it's not just about hurrying up and get a whole hell of a lot more houses built, because another part of our program, as you saw, we spent $474 million last year on maintenance. We have to find a way to keep these things functional and working well. So to deliver those thousands of new homes across New Zealand over the next couple of decades, we have to think, what can we do to make it replicatable, duplicatable, something that others can do? We know that council consenting teams are already burdened with large volume of consents. We've set up a quality assurance team that's very different than what we've done in recent times to make sure that we're actually getting the quality that we expect and creating a layer that hadn't existed properly before in Housing New Zealand in recent times. So we're looking to get much more predictable consenting timeframes by building to standard house plans and training our internal staff to work with those plans before a consent is lodged. The biggest challenge councils have in the consent process typically is the quality of the applications, and the people that work with us are as much a contributor to that as anybody else. So our focus is to actually raise the bar for that, for everybody involved. We've just received 2 sets of multi-proof approved plans and certification for these to be consented by regional authorities, and that means that we can actually generally get consents out in 10 days. That's the aspiration, and we're moving into other parts of the designs. The work that we're doing in establishing the Building Control Authority is really about catering for what we at Housing New Zealand are building as state homes, just using those standard plans. These are the houses that we aim to own and retain over time, which will be about 80% of the volume of the consents that we do when we consider the use of those standard plans. Now I'm going to show you an app that I often use in every meeting that I have with people who want to get a sense of what are we doing and where are we doing it. You've all got probably Google Earth on your phone. Well, this is that app you've got. We just put some of our data into it. And this shows every dot there represents a project that we've got in play around the country. And then focusing into Auckland, you can see every dot represents a project. It might be a 5-unit site, it might be a 250-unit site. And people do not realise that's the stuff that we've got in play right now around the country. So there's over 2,500 units currently in construction in our program around the country. 2 years ago, that was just a few hundred. So we delivered 4,200 new state, market and some Kiwi built homes in Auckland in the last 3 years, and have 7,000 more planned over the next 2 years. Over the 4 years to financial year 22, June 22, we're going to deliver more than 700 in the Wellington region. An additional 2,500 of those houses that we already own in there will be brought up to modern standards. And we have the same sort of numbers, just at a different scale, happening in Christchurch and other main centres around the country. This is the largest state housing build program for generations. And we're getting to the point where we'll sustainably deliver something like 2,000 new and replacement state homes each year for at least the next 2 decades. This graphic's probably a little hard for you to read, but what we're trying to show here is the typology, the nature of the houses that we build is changing. You see the orange there is actually apartments on that circle. And that's not been something that we've built for many, many years. And it's really changing the nature of who we're actually doing work with. So we're filling this pipeline with an increasing sophisticated forecast of where these projects will be around the country, when they'll be built, and what those typologies will be. And we're sharing those with our build partners. So we're having very real conversations about what's the rhythm of their business, what's the capacity they want to make available to us. And when we talk about putting risk in the right place, we will be making commitments to keep them busy at the pace that works for them, so we then can increase that pace. And if we don't front up with the projects that we said we would do, it costs us. Because if we don't front up, it costs them. And that's where the margin sits that they have to mitigate. So last year, we talked about the apartments. We built 300 apartments, which included a bunch of 3-storey walk-up apartments. This year, that'll be over 700. Next year, it could be about 1,500. We've got over 10,000 units in the pipeline of that typology coming through. In the regions, we've been busy, and it's interesting, only a few years ago, our plan was to sell out a whole bunch of our stock in the regions. And as the hotspots of demand increased, we've had to respond to that, and it's been very dramatic, the shift. Since July last year, we've enabled about 450 new state homes in the regions, and we're on track to meet demand for most of the 22 regions that needs new supply. We intend to build in every part of the country, and you saw that in my graphic. Often it's not just about new, but it's also about bringing older homes up to standard, and we're looking to acquire land or homes in regions where demand is not met, such as Gisborne, Tauranga and New Plymouth. This isn't a one-off, and it's far more than a trend. It's the new normal for Housing New Zealand and what will be part of Kaingaroa, and we have the pipeline going forward to sustain the trend. As I talked about wanting to transform the industry, it's about improving that capability and capacity and efficiency. It's a key focus for us. And so some of the things that we're doing really are, how do we actually partner with these people and put conditions on those partnerships that bring some change? So we've got those 5 construction capacity contracts I talked about. And last year, Adrian Young-Cooper from our board talked about what the industry accord is doing and what we would be sort of signalling that we're going to get up to. And this is really just saying, hey, we've done some of it and we're a long way towards where we need to be. So we've got 32 apprentices now as a part of that program that didn't have jobs, with 12 build partners, and that's growing rapidly. We've partnered with builders and material suppliers to harness that scale and that buying power. The fact that we use about 500,000 square metres of plasterboard every year through our program, and up until recently, well, we still haven't harnessed what that buying power really will mean to the cost and the efficiency of the delivery of those products. So we require all our physical workers and their contractors to pass health and safety pre-quals. Sounds like a little tag, but it's very important we actually have an absolute focus on those 4 key elements that are really important within the construction cycle, and that's the health and safety being core, that everybody who works on one of our sites goes home safe to their family and is able to come back and work with us tomorrow. How to increase the speed and pace in which we operate so we can actually get these houses out so we don't have our land lined fallow and we get more and more people in homes. How do we cut the costs out of the equation in a way that doesn't just help us in our program, but helps New Zealand get housing built cheaper? And how do we enhance the quality? And you can see our focus on that through our design work and also our commitment to the Homestar program. Central to everything I come back to, though, is what we're building as homes for people who actually need us as government, us as the people of New Zealand, to support them. And that's to provide warm, dry, healthy houses to those who need it the most. Thank you very much.